Where East is East is a 1929 silent film directed by Todd Browning, starring Lon Chaney Sr. Chaney plays an animal trapper whose daughter, played by Lupe Velez, has recently become engaged to one of Chaney's best customers' sons, played by Lloyd Hughes. Chaney eventually approves of the union and takes Hughes with him to deliver some animals. They travel by boat, and while on board, Hughes becomes infatuated with a woman on board, played by Estelle Taylor. Turns out, Taylor is Chaney's ex-wife and the mother to Velez. Of course, once Hughes realizes this, he stays away from Taylor. However, once Taylor decides she wants Hughes, she stops at nothing to get him. This is a pretty racy plot for a film from the 20s. This is actually the last film Todd Browning and Lon Chaney would make together, and some people call it their worst film, but I wouldn't say worst film. That would imply that this is a bad movie, just not as good as the others. For starters, the performances in here are actually pretty good. Chaney again delivers a great performance. The older I get, the more I appreciate his acting, and dare I say, he's easily one of the best actors from the silent era. Just look at his face. Without saying a word, you can sense the amount of hate he has for his ex-wife. Oh yeah, if you didn't gather it by now, they don't like each other. But they go about it in different ways. Chaney is more upfront and blunt, whereas Taylor is more reserved and subtle. Her hatred boils down to a stare, and whenever she's with Hughes, you can tell what her intentions are. But you can also see how Hughes might see her look as seduction. The juxtaposition of her look can mean a variety of things depending on how you look at it. And for that, I think it's brilliant. I really do think Taylor steals a lot of the scenes from Chaney. This makes for an interesting dynamic within the film, too, because we too, in a way, are falling under her spell. We see firsthand how powerful of a woman she is, and she hardly has to bat an eye. Velez does a good job, too, but if I'm gonna be honest, I think she's the weakest character. She's not as dynamic as the rest of them, and really she doesn't do much. I think Velez is able to bring a little something to the character, and I commend her for that, but it's hard to compete with such great characters as Chaney and Taylor. Hey, I just realized something. My first year of doing these reviews, I reviewed West of Zanzibar, another Browning-Chaney collaboration. That film was remade as Congo in 1932, and Velez played Walter Houston's daughter in that. Houston plays what was originally Chaney's role. Isn't that funny? There's a lot of great framing in this. Todd Browning's always had a natural eye for creating interesting shots. This is why Browning flourished in the silent era, but was a little more restricted when the sound era came along, because the sound equipment restrained the camera so much. The set pieces are also fantastic. I've always had a fascination with Oriental-style architecture, and this film shows off a variety of different sets that have influence from many Chinese structures. So even if this isn't their best collaboration, I don't think this film deserves to be ignored. If you're a Lon Chaney or Todd Browning fan, or just a silent film fan, then give this one a watch.